Is this working, Swifer? Did you set this up right? There we go! I've returned from the dead! Thank you to all the people who followed before I even started the panel. You guys have finally pushed me over 50 followers, which means I get to be an affiliate soon. Here we are! We are in the basement of the Troll Rebellion. Let's give you a little primer on last year, before I get into things. You guys are gonna follow so much. I have to move the alerts. I didn't expect this many followers. We're gonna move alerts down in the corner out of the way. Hi, I'm on Windows 95. If you remember from last year, if you were here at Sahcon, I was, beheaded by Dirk. He chopped off my head because he had to be a villain of my panel, and then I tried to explain that that's dumb, and you don't need to do that, so he chopped off his own head. A lot of people were concerned because I obviously wasn't picked up by my old, second-hand woman, Marcy, but I was not taken captive by Gamzee. I was taken into the care of the Troll Rebellion, where I have now become Imp, the introspective meta persona. My brain's in a jar. So today we're going to be talking about a bit of the history of fandom. We're going to go all the way back to the 19th century and talk about its roots. We're going to talk about early internet days. We're going to talk about the large crowd Homestuck days, and then go into sort of the themes of Homestuck and how there's sort of a ludonarrative dissonance between the themes of Homestuck and the way we celebrate it, and how that has kind of caused conflicts in the community and some hostileness between parties. And then we're going to talk about the newer content and how the creators responded to that and how people have been responding to that and what we've done to make this fandom a better place. Talk about the decentralization of stuff recently, because things have been crazy this last year, for even ignoring real-world reasons, but real-world reasons was already crazy enough. You missed nothing. This is still the intro. I haven't got to the first real slide yet. You missed Swifer. She came by and swiped. You may see her again. There she comes. She just sort of does this on her own time. Let her do her thing. So we're going to go. So, I should talk about myself. I'm Sky Player. I do remember Prom Stuck. I didn't ever take part in it, but I remember people dressing up in the fancy suit and ties and getting all spiffy. I used to run Homestuck.info. That is officially done. This is the last thing, and this panel may be the last Homestuck thing I do for a while. I'm gonna talk about it at the end, though. We're just gonna get right into, talking about things. That was 5 whole minutes. We got a few slides left. I can stretch this out to an hour. Homestuck has been rough lately. It's been real rough. But let's define fandom, because that's the original title. You can see up there, fandom defined, got a little scratched out through the process of putting this together. According to Google, the definition of a fandom is the state or condition of being a fan or something. My 17 years of sports fandom. Or the fans of a particular person, stream, fictional series, etc. regarded collectively as a community or subculture, etc. The Breaking Bad fandom. They get to be the Google example, I don't know why. But Homestuck definitely has had a fandom. If you see down there, that's a picture from Anime Expo, probably 2012, maybe 2011. No, 2012, because there's a Roxy in there. And that was really the heyday of Homestuck, when it was a real centralized group in the most literal term possible. When it was literally hundreds of kids packed together talking about Homestuck. Someone could bring Promstuck back. I'd like to see that happen. Maybe, Sahcon does the rave, right? I think Sahcon does the rave. They should do a prom next year. Oh, this is a little problem. I should switch I should switch this. I don't want to mess anything up, though, so it's fine. I'm gonna stick with it. The real Wild West days. What do I have to talk about here? Oh my god, I have notes. I have show notes. This isn't supposed to be as boring as it is. If it gets boring, Swifer will walk by. Swifer, come walk by. Come walk. Excite these people. Aw, he's such a cutie. So we're gonna go into the subject that I actually know a bunch of data dump about, which is Sherlock Holmes. This is considered the very first fandom. This was late 19th century, around 1880s to 1890s, which is Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't around yet, sadly, or luckily. But Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was the author, and he went through a lot of what the Homestuck authors go through. It was really the first fandom to have that sort of communication with their author. In 1893, Sherlock Holmes was killed off. And he wanted the kill off to be final. He was done. And people were not happy with him. They sent him very angry letters, and they put together very angry groups to go yell at him. And as early as 1897, people were writing their own continuation fics because they didn't like the ending of Sherlock Holmes. And he eventually brought him back, as we all know. He's still kicking. But, already, Arthur Conan Doyle was, on one side, facing hostility from his fans who didn't like the direction he took the story, and on the other side, inspiring fans to continue and write their own stories, and write their own world, and use his characters in their own way. Sherlock Holmes squared, beyond canon, yes. This sort of also... Before I go into the next slide, which is early internet days, I'll talk a little bit about 20th century. There is a big gap where people were a little more, they were a little more preoccupied by this thing called World War I and II, and there wasn't a lot of fandom. But after the wars ended, and as we moved into the 60s, Star Trek came around, and I should have made a slide for Star Trek, because it's another whole can of worms. Yeah, the Wars arc, it was a lot of story stuff. There was some real meaty arc, but I wanted to get back to the filler beach episodes, the candy stuff, you know? And so Kirk and Spock, Star Trekking across the universe, boldly going forward, because we can't find reverse. that song, not as we know it. You guys are distracting me! I should have pre-recorded this. Kirk and Spock were the first... Well, there were Sherlock Holmes and Watson, but Kirk and Spock were the first mainstream gay ship that people really pushed, and people wrote crazy fanfic of, and people wrote all this smut of, and it's where they invented slashfic. If you were Kirk plus Spock, you just liked them as friends, and if you were Kirk slash Spock, that means things were getting a little steamy in your fanfiction. And all the stuff about Star Trek not being for women, Star Trek started for women. It was a fangirl property at its earliest days. Is it a fandom if there isn't a slash parent the fandom? I mean, yeah. I mean, we started with our humble John Cat and John Dave, which we now know is nothing to the greatness that is Dave Cat. Your mom was a Kirk Spock shipper. That's great. That is a generational fandom. You were destined for Homestuck at that point. So Star Trek, Sherlock Holmes back in the day, and even all the way to Star Trek in the 60s, fandom was very decentralized. It was mostly, if you liked a property like that, you would find ways to celebrate it. You'd find ways to consume as much of it as you could and follow the author on everything, but although there was no Twitter, you couldn't follow the author. All authorial figures by default were these mysterious figures that lived off in a dark corner and wrote their magic words into a thing. And then, Swifer, that's the wrong way! You came from the other side! Okay. It was really about a celebration of individual groups. you'd have close friends where you'd talk and you'd theorize and you'd discuss the media without any sort of outside input, without any direct way to talk to the authors, without even a large mass of people to argue those ideas about. It was just you and a handful of friends and what you guys, your intent that you put onto the media, because that's a whole other deal I can do a whole other panel on, but authors can make whatever intent they want in the work, but the intent that people project onto it is a little more important in the interpretation of the work from a, if you're not trying to see it from a totally unbiased perspective. Thank you. Oh, I can't thank every follower. There's so many. Thank you, Galrinal, Keyblade, Kai, Childish Gamzino, Nakadile Monster, Soapstone, Yoitscrow, Autumn Artist, Mirakai Azukai, Ookman, Marith of Ovith, Cheramon, Garame, June Dave, Muggy Wave, Lily Bloom. Caught up now. Thank you, all Mentosies. So, there were Star Trek fan magazines, and that's where a lot of the fanfic was swapped, because no AO3, no fanfiction.net, no Fur Affinity. I'm glad I'm being informative. I know some dumb things, so I can... the best I can hope is that people in chat don't know these dumb things, but there's like 50 of you here. Oh my god, there's 100 now, I didn't look! There's a lot of you now. Yeah, Fur Affinity. Your mom was a big Kirk Spock shipper, but she didn't have Fur Affinity. She just didn't have, E621. That's real sad. Growing up with E621 really defines you as a human being. Hey, Pete Pamda! I like your art. Thank you, Cheshire. Let me see my notes here. Okay, so this sort of goes into my next panel here, which was the early internet days, which is the first time you could really interact. Oh yes, Furfinity is a furry site. Look up the Star Trek cartoon and look at the cat girl that was in it. I'm telling you. Whew. So this is what the early internet looked like. This, it still ain't Tumblr, I'll tell you that. It was people who were into the internet. Oh, thank you, Uber. Thank you, Joopy Can Be Dumb. Uber, I loved your panel. I saw it. Your troll Bob Ross was great. I'm gonna a lot. I shouldn't be umming this much. Yes, these are BBS's bulletin board systems. These were ran by individuals back in the 80s through early 90s off their own computers. There weren't main centralized social medias. There was no Tumblr, no Twitter, not even message boards at this point. Message boards would come around mid to late 90s, and those would really take over. But this was even earlier than that. And this was literally, you were a computer nerd, and you knew how to forward your own ports and run your own server, and you set up a bulletin board, and thank you, Kansas Just Got Gator, thank you, Ildry Strider. You set up a bulletin board, and you would tell people your IP and how to sign into it, and they'd make accounts. And every bulletin board, you'd have your own special account, and it would just be a small little community with just that one person making sure things don't go too bad, but not really any deep moderation, not really any deep rules. There was no Comcast, there was no Google, no one was looking at you. It was your computer in the corner over there, in a little box, had all your friends in it. And it was just that. And that was really the purest form of fandom I think we've gotten. Because there's just been a decay after that, a corruption of, like, corporations trying to step in and make it their own. And fans having too much communication with independent authors and treating them like corporations, and just a bad time for everyone, arguing back and forth. It's much easier. There's still friend groups that will like a fandom like this, but they're a lot more interconnected, and they argue, and it's just not a good time for the overall display of the medium, or the way the content is seen by the masses. So I want to get into the Homestuck fandom. We're gonna look at the early days. This was 2009 through 2013 about. This is when Homestuck was massive beyond anything anyone could ever have. Hi, cyberKinetist! You followed me! I have thanked you as a Patreon on every stream I've done the last however months. So I have heard your name here often. I may be phasing out my Patreon to go Discord only if I make Discord only, to go Twitch only if I make affiliate, but thank you for your support all this time. So, Homestuck kind of blew up. Yeah, they didn't steal body paint. They... I'm not gonna... Let's not blame the Homestuck fandom, because the Homestuck fandom isn't at fault for the community they fostered. Thank you, Goblin of Chaos. You guys have good usernames. Homestuck was a victim of its platforms. In a world where only Tumblr existed, Tumblr... Thank you, Pyrite. Pyrite is alright by me. Homestuck... Tumblr existed in a vacuum that did... it was good in a lot of ways. It helped independent artists get seen. It had really good ways of circulating content between friend groups. Thank you, Brioche. Of circulating art between friend groups. It really was anti-echo chamber. If you mentioned a property, everyone into that property saw it, and it was good for letting people build up followings, but it kind of pushed that too far. People got too much following, and there was too much... It was too easy for people to find each other between groups that were otherwise hostile. Tags would get raided, like you go in to search Homestuck today, and oh, it's been filled with Johnny Test porn. Because the 4chaners said, hey, everyone post Johnny Test porn and tag it Homestuck. Thank you, Vriska did nothing wrong, you are correct. Oh, sorry. Oh no, I'm having a brain fart. Johnny Test porn. No, you can't have the Johnny Test porn. You can go find that on your own. You can go join the Johnny Test porn decentralized fandom. So the problem with that sort of free communication was also that it put people a little too close to the authors, and as you can see in like Hussey's old Formspring and Hussey's old Twitter, it wasn't the best of things. People demanded word of God. There was... Homestuck now, don't get me wrong, Homestuck is one of the biggest fandoms for headcanons, for their fan fiction, for their own creations. But there were a lot of people who would be really authoritative about, this Hussey is the word of God, he said this, it must be true, you are wrong. And there was also a lot of, Andrew Hussey, tell me what is right, tell me the real answer, no more joking. And the problem is, it's all jokes. It's all jokes all the way down. Let's go into, which is why we're going to go into Homestuck's themes. And I'm hoping this panel takes up. Oh, we're making good time. So, yeah, I joined Homestuck in 2013. I was around for the Gigapause. I joined right as the Gigapause was starting. My first live update was Homestuck. Straight answer from the Huss man. Hussey, how do you pronounce Vaska Secret's real name? She is fat, and my wife. We will be married at SeaWorld. It's all jokes. Always has been. So, the themes of Homestuck. How do I fit this into a tiny little one slide in a giant presentation? That was the Megapause. I joined the day the Megapause started, and then it ended with Homestuck, and then I was here the day the Gigapause began that October. There's only like 4 months and 13 days between the Megapause ending and the Gigapause starting. Once again, trying to pack Homestuck in this little tiny little panel, it seems impossible. Homestuck is about kids growing up and inheriting the world. That's as much as I can break it down. Because it's also about how people perceive media and how fans interact with their creator. It's about the death of the author and how canon can surpass that author. It's about what happens to characters after the story is over, not in a dumb, do they have wife and kids in 20 years way, but it does make fun of that, but in a, does the idea of the character still exist in the zeitgeist of the real physical world once they're gone? And what do they do if they don't? Are they just gone? The week before epilogues came out, that's you're lucky there. You didn't have to go through the madness. Uh, yeah. Homestuck is about your guardians. It's about your parents. It's about how they viewed the world and how you're viewing it instead, and why that causes a schism that could be solved just by talking it out. It's about dad thinking you're into clowns because you write suicide notes on your wall. It's about your bro upholding this cool, ironic status. He's all you know. All you see is his shades, so you don't even know what is really going on in his head. It's about your mother, who had a really rough time raising kids as a teenager. She was like a 12-year-old trying to raise a bunch of 10-year-olds. But now she just escapes from all that through drinking. All you think of her is her drinking. And Grandpa's dead. He's gone. Which is, pretty much the depictions of the Guardians. Dad with just his nosy nose, bro with just his shades, mom's with just her mouth, and Grandpa dead. Yeah, Jade doesn't get parents, which is why later on, she's an awful one herself. Homestuck is about Wizardy Herbert. It's about Hussey's forgotten projects, creative works left unfinished, ideas that gestated in his brain, but were not put onto a paper in a way that other people were able to display their intent on it and give it meaning. So it just sort of exists in a lost limbo. And thank you, Elena Lesnake. Homestuck's about retcons. It's about changing. It's about how no author goes into a story completely knowing the ending, or maybe they know just the ending. And the characters take shape as you write it. And if you decide 75% in that one of your characters is transgender, and that's not something you thought of beforehand, that is technically a retcon because it wasn't the intent at the start, but it's also just the natural progression of the character. And about how the fandom can be so heavily against changes like that if they're shown in a way that highlights the fact that they're a retcon, and the author doesn't choose to uphold his famous, "Ha, I'm smart and I knew everything from the beginning" attitude, or if he doesn't hide the fact that it's being written by other people now, and other ideas are being put into it, a big melting pot of different cultures that the author alone couldn't capture. Homestuck's about everything. It's about everything. It's about family, really. It's about growth. It's about fandom. And there's been thousands of people who've read Homestuck. Just thousands. Each with their own ideas and their own intents. They like June Egbert. They like Vriska. They don't like Vriska. They don't like the epilogues. They like the epilogues. And that should all come together to form a really interactive piece of media that allows for people to have crazy opinions and be able to state it and be true. And some people have taken platforms like that and started podcasts and started continuation fics, but unfortunately that kind of discussion got lost in Tumblr and Twitter, which is sort of designed around a peer versus peer mentality. Tumblr and Twitter are based around you gaining more followers, so you have the ability to gain more followers. It's about getting in good loops of ideas, and it's about pitting people against each other. It's about a battle for clout, and clout is all that matters because in our system that we live in, which I'm not going to get too deep into that, I promise, but in our system we live in, clout keeps you alive. If you have enough clout, if you have enough followers, if you have enough Twitch subscribers, you get to buy McDonald's for lunch that day, and it sucks. It really sucks. And I'd love for everyone to move to a decentralized form of media, but our system just it doesn't quite support it, and it really sucks. Swifer? No, don't, you'll scare them. Please put that back. Put that back. You're messing up the chat, the illusion of the chat, anyways. If you start bringing symbols and if I start telling you that the bourgeoisie is destroying Homestuck, people will leave. And I truly believe that, but unfortunately the reality is that if you bring in keywords and key icons, people leave. And I want to fix that, but not today. Oh my god, Swifer. We will not leave, you are right. I mean, I'm right! If you follow Pigeon Pod, you know that the accurate path through Homestuck leads to communism. But today we're talking about fandom politics in Minecraft. Totally different. Homestuck's about programming jokes. It's about the little carrot on John's programming. The only thing you need to know about Homestuck is that Carcat thinks Dave is a fucking fuck-ass who can go suck on my nook, and no, that is not some kind of internal homophobia, or whatever you humans call same-gender relationships. Yeah, they're about clout more than community, exactly. That's what this hour is about. This is an hour trying to explain to you that social media platforms cause people to fight for clout instead of caring about the thing they care about. And to just pit against each other, and we get in these dumb, silly arguments with no end that go in circles, and people take stands for, and it's all just infighting, and it's all just meaningless in the big scheme of things. Human stuck Carcat is you. I'm not taking credit for an original voice. I'm doing a terrible impression of Paul Henderson. It only sounds good because of the mic crust, I promise. Thoughts on Mastodon? That is in. So let me get a couple panels in here. I actually have Mastodon on a slide here. This is a big shill for Mastodon. But first, here's the panel on hostility I was supposed to bring up 5 minutes ago, which I'm also supposed to mention comes from the other side too, because there are still people out there who will, even after reading the email leaks, will incredibly fight on the side of parties I will not name, because they're fully against creators having ownership of their ideas, and they're against creators stepping in to protect their ideas and the community that their ideas have fostered. And Mackin followed! Did you wait for that? Did you wait for me to mention that? I love that. Thank you for making this a better. I did wait for. Thank you, Mackin. Well, I'm not naming any names. No names here. It's all drama that's pointless. Clout versus cloud. They're making you fight each other. The creators have done just as wrong. There's been just as much horrible business practices in What Pumpkin. I have no hard feelings, Mackin. But there's been just as bad things at What Pumpkin, I've heard. I know Kate left, which has put a lot of this clout versus clout to rest, because it's not fandom versus official content anymore. It's a lot more complicated than that. This human stuck Carcat's twin. No names. Yeah, no, I'm not calling any names. I didn't want to call out who did this. I did put a panel in here that I now can't skip over, but I'm not going to spill any tea. We're not going to talk about anything in particular. We're going to move on to the Homestuck epilogues, which was the official response to the hostility that came before all the epilogues. And it was Homestuck 2 taking on the early Homestuck role of trying to react in real time to how the fandom was acting, which is a lot worse than they used to act. I used to say meat. I used to 100% say meat. The candy timeline is more interesting. There's more going on there. And it really takes a mix of both meat and candy to make a good story, which is why Homestuck 2 is doing the duality thing. Which is why Homestuck 2 is touching on... Well, I was gonna say Homestuck 2 is touching on these facts, but I'm thinking of Homestuck 2, TWO, which is a comic I wrote. I don't want to talk about that. We're getting real heated here. We're at the halfway point of the panel only. The candy is it's cut off. Oh, I can see it in your chat. More spicy, ironically. Yeah, people really take candy seriously. They really take, like, Yiffy seriously, and well, why is there cheating and divorce problems in Homestuck seriously? Is because it's making fun of candy. It's making fun of a soap opera. It's making fun of the Harry Potter epilogue. It's making fun of what people think happens after stories end. Like, oh, my favorite hero, he saved the universe. I bet he's having kids now. I bet he's settling down with the compet heroine, and they're having little baby kids together, and they're just, no, neither of them are transgender. It's just John and Roxy, and they're having babies together. Is it canon or non-canon? Nothing. There's no canon. Canon doesn't matter. There is very limited canon that is created at the moment the author conceptualizes the story, and the rest just naturally comes together. And if retcons are just the natural evolution of an initial point of canon, then why does it have to be the same specific author, the same human soul that came up with the Inception that has to continue it? And why can't it be more people? Why can't it be a fan? Why isn't a fan continuation just as canon as a continuation by fans with an official name on it? Which doesn't have an official name on it anymore. Thank you, Phoenix Zed. So, what have we got next? We got solutions next. So, we're gonna get past all of the, where's Swifer? I need Swifer to come for a sec. She's on the left. Okay, Swifer, if you could prepare for the ending segment, start getting that set up now. I don't know if Revolution have the secret pumpkin epilogue. Oh yeah, listen, we're heading towards a communist revolution, and it's being the spark lighting it is Homestuck. I don't know how we reach this. I don't know what we're doing. We're in the alpha timeline. Guy Fieri's taking office. The ICP's taken over. And I don't even know what to say about all that. There's just... things have gotten so out of hand. I don't want to go into real world politics especially, but I think that... Are we back? Thank you. Thank you, Swifer. That happens. I was doing some light reading while waiting. Nothing. Whew. I think the chat's a little behind. They just got to that. Hi. So... we're gonna move on to the solutions here. What I want... here's the Mastodon you talked about. That's what I didn't want to talk about earlier, because I have a slide for that. What can you do to help fix this, other than a complete revolution of our entire economic model, because that's the only way it's ever going to be fixed. There won't be good Homestuck content until the US government falls in Minecraft. Could you... Okay, let me explain Mastodon to people who don't know Mastodon. Mastodon uses the Fediverse, which is a system... I don't want to get into Bitcoin because I don't know how Bitcoin works, but it is a decentralized platform that connects communities only through like a Kevin Bacon style connecting game. You host a Mastodon instance on your own server, and it looks and acts like a modern social media, so you'd still understand how it all works, but it's all still hosted in your little box, like back in the BBS days. if you host one of these, you can invite all your Homestuck friends and have a Homestuck server, and it's just you guys. And it's not like Discord. There is no overarching company with access to your messages. There is no, like, updates will roll out for the open source program that helps run it, but the Mastodon itself, the developers run their own private instance, and you run your private instance, and they're not related. How do you find people's Mastodon? You have to ask them. You have to ask them. Or if you're in a Mastodon and your instance starts interacting with another instance, you'll Kevin Bacon degree over to them, and you can follow people in their instance and see it on your feed. You can't follow their entire instance at once. Tags only show instances you're connected to, so if someone is off more than 6 degrees of separation from you, you won't know they exist. And if you want to make a secret little server and just keep it to yourself and your friends, you can do that. And you can totally privatize it. When you run your own little box, you can have people join it who don't live physically close to your box, but you can still keep control over it, where you can totally ban users and entire other systems from your system. Or you can, and it's not in the way that Discord kind of creates a mods above users mentality where people get kicked and banned, because you can always create your own Mastodon instance and interact with people, which it sounds very similar to Discord, but that the added benefit of not being part of a company's large umbrella, of like not paying for Discord Nitro to use your emotes, not giving $5 a month to this terrible company so that you can communicate with your friends. That's a big deal. Because Discord already is a step above Twitter, at least, in my opinion, because it does have more conversation between groups while allowing to be public and not too echo chambery. It's a good balance, but it does make that admins getting a little power hungry. It does have companies stepping in and trying to take over your communities. Both sides back and forth, it just gets real dirty. Which is why you see Pigeon Pod moving all over there. You see those groups of people. You see my friends, my groups of people are all now on Mastodon. I'm on Mastodon. I don't use Twitter or Discord. I use Discord a little bit. Another thing I wanted to mention here is you can help build up your fandoms by commissioning artists. If you're part of Sahcon today watching this live, go down to the Artist Alley and art commission people. Support artists. It's it feels a bit capitalist to say go give them some clout, but it's not about clout. It's about pooling resources to help starving artists stay alive. And I think it's very socialist to give commissions. When you have extra money, you go and give it to the people who need money. It all works out. It's the Patreon circle, which a lot of people have expressed on how to break it out, because all my Patreon money right now goes to other Patreon creators. And it's whenever someone needs money, they jump out of the loop for a month, take what they can, and try to survive, and then they get back in the ring and help them when they can. And that's a pretty as socialist a system as you can create in a capitalist society. If you want to join the revolution, listen to the last quarter of Pigeon Pod. Watch the strange shift from Homestuck to politics. Watch their last few live streams, because that's how I started the shift into revolutionary stuff. Homestuck, and maybe you don't even have to. Maybe I'm hoping Homestuck 2 itself will do it, because I know things in there are quite like this, but they're still quite a big company. Homestuck is a big corporation, don't get me wrong. They're still trying to make a profit. They still have a shady business side with people that the community doesn't even interact with. I've talked to people at What Pumpkin who handle talking with merch and Viz Media, and Viz Media's horribly scummy. Anyone will tell you that. So I have the icon here from one of my friends' Twitter accounts. They run a account I've retweeted a few times. about how Homestuck should go public domain, and I at a base level would think that's absolutely awesome, and they should totally just do that. But I also recognize that Hussey needs money to survive. How would production of goods be handled under socialism? We're going real deep into that. There have been perfectly generic podcast streams that go deep into that, and those people are a lot more knowledgeable than me. But a sustainable socialism would take the form of like a real version of what Mastodon's doing, where it's independent communes trading resources with their own supply lines, with using proper, not Anprim, we're not going Amish, but using supply lines and modern technology to be able to create enough resources to sustain yourself and to give to that resource loop without having to do things like, we aren't going to give you health insurance if you don't work the line at McDonald's for 8 hours today, which is what I'm trying to deal with here as I'm trying to get my health back in order. Yeah, Hussey could open an OnlyFans. Hussey, make Homestuck public domain and open an OnlyFans. That'll do it. No, we've seen what a Homestuck Patreon does. It gives a couple thousand people, but even that's just barely enough for running the comic and servers and paying people to do art. Because you want to properly pay everyone who does art if you're making a big art project as a for-profit company. If the point of your work is to make money for Viz Media, then you need to pay your artists correctly, and you need to contract your artists correctly, and that hasn't entirely been going on behind the scenes. I don't know all the details on that. I just know things have been rough. Jay up there is telling you, don't ask questions, just consume media, then get excited for next media, which is there's mainstream fandom that's been completely cannibalized by corporations. It's completely at a point where it's a walking undead corpse of what it once was. That Star Trek mentality of fan comics and book clubs getting together to talk about Kirk and Spock, that doesn't exist anymore in places like Star Wars. It doesn't exist in Marvel or comic books in general or anything Disney owns, anything Viz Media owns. All that stuff is just heavily optimized to make the company money and to keep you hooked for the next product, and so that you'll go to the store and buy a Star Wars bath towel. There's people ask how supply lines can stay running and how we can maintain the workforce we do, but there are so many people in charge of making plastic Star Wars action figures. It's really ridiculous stuff we don't need. I don't think Viz Media owns MSPFA. MSPFA is still pretty independent. They're running still on ads as far as I know. Kickstarter for Hivestop was great. Homestuck in its heyday could sustain an artist and be public domain. I could have seen Hussey going public domain at that point and making Homestuck just like a SCP style thing. Thoughts on left-wing anarchism? There are definitely anarchists in my friend groups, and anarchism's great. Anarchism is what the socialism we want to do is closer to anarchism than it is to traditional communism. This is weird stuff to get into in the fandom podcast, but this is where my script even says I'm supposed to get into. We're doing Q&A right now. Let me just go into the Q&A slide. Now this gives me a bit of a flashback, because the Q&A slide last time is when I got my head cut off. So if I die this time, I blame the slide. Very important question. Is Swifer an anarchist? Let's call her in. Swifer, what are your thoughts on the state of the U.S. government and the optimal system for human happiness? And she says she likes swiping. Listen, Carcat's wearing the red. Well, and the black. Carcat's wearing the red and the black. I'm wearing the red and the black. This is what Big Boss Carcat's wearing out there in the field when he's fighting Jane Crocker. What Swifer and Carcat think is we should strive for a leftist unity where people don't care about the minuscule differences between communist and anarchism, and we first destroy the entire US government in Minecraft. and then worry about the little minute details. If my head gets cut off, Swiper will sweep it off, yeah. So, are you going to upload or archive this later? Yes, this will be on YouTube. This will definitely be on YouTube. I was supposed to start recording so that I didn't put it on YouTube with the copyrighted music, but it's going on YouTube with the copyrighted music now, so oops. Oh no, I can use the YouTube trimmer because it was right at the beginning. Ignore that. This will be on YouTube. And Twitch will save it for a couple months or however long they keep it when I'm not an affiliate yet. Don't pull a Dirk. I'm not pulling a Dirk. Dirk last time. We saw Dirk. He killed himself. Let me, I can check the script. I have the script here. And the script will tell me for sure that I'm not dying. Hope, decentralization, responsible consumption, communism, animation gag, where Slifer tries to roll out a communist flag. We did that. Thank you, Trembling Pencils. Q&A, gotta be all improv, but stick to the morals I've stated before this. Coming off as hostile might make the ending more satisfying. That doesn't sound good. I'm not hostile, am I? I'm trying to maintain trying to understand the situation here. I don't want to say centrist, because I am not. Do you know where to find pumpkins? No one knows where to find pumpkins. Ending animation, I'm ranting about something. Swifer sneaks up. Oh no. Well, some of this stuff I'm not doing because it was a little ambitious for what I could do art-wise. But it says Swifer's supposed to kill me. And at this point, I'm not sure if I can unprogram her to not kill me. So, when we're getting down to the last couple minutes here, Swifer might come in and kill me. Just giving you all a heads up. My great line here is that Homestuck is facing the same problems as Sherlock, except Doyle is a guy you can add on Twitter with a death threat, which is a big problem. The easy access to be able to harass Hussey and all the Homestuck 2 writers has been awful. She's already here. she's scaring me a little. She's scaring me a little bit. Can we do the screensaver gag again? That was funny. Swifer's gonna kill Jane Crocker. Swifer's gonna save the day in Homestuck. She's gonna end capitalism on Earth C. If Swifer kills you, become a martyr of the communist revolution. If you know the little title up here, what that means, I've been a martyr before. I've gone that route. And I know that some people say some martyrs get to be martyrs again. Go listen to Hagiophage by Kate Mitchell. But I'm done with that. Which is why I'm going to take the last few moments here to do my ending spiel. Do I have an ending spiel card? Let's bring this one back up. Homestuck the past 7 years has been a really big part of my life. It's been my main influence behind all my art, behind every friend I ever made, behind meeting my boyfriend, behind every friend group, behind everything I've done. And I've had my ups and downs with it. I've done some bad things in the past. People have done some bad things in the past while with Homestuck around. I went through a few years of deep moral internalizing, trying to figure out who I am and what I'm doing in the world, and only in the past year, when I started getting on depression meds, did I finally start caring about the real world and understanding what a politics was. And I think it's time for me to move on. I'm still gonna be around. I still have Homestuck communities. I still have a lot of Homestuck friends. I don't see myself putting a lot of time into a strictly Homestuck art project. I want to make some independent games. I want to independently stream more. Plenty of you have, more than I thought. I thought I'd get 2 or 3 of you guys to follow me today. This is amazing. But if you want to follow me, every few days I try to stream something weird. The last week I played a Dark Souls roguelike. I played the new Vinesauce Vine Realms fan game, which had Homestuck in it, reluctantly. And I played Disney Extreme Skate Adventure for the PlayStation 2. Those streams are also on my YouTube. You can find links to my archive stuff down below. I'll probably also add in a link to my Discord later. I'm gonna reformat my Discord tonight so that it's not based around Homestuck, but still be about kind of, you can still follow it if you want to be pinged from my streams and the art I do. Just met you and you're leaving. I wouldn't say leaving the fandom. Thank you, Ms. Zarasu. I'm just gonna be decentralized from the fandom. The main hub of the fandom, the main Twitter discourse, the main communities that everyone knows about, they've just gotten a bit out of hand, and it's just a distraction. I just wanted quiet time to work on my art. And so I'm gonna go to one of those Mastodon small little friend circles and have them help me through some bigger art pieces. I've been really learning video games, thank you. I have a bunch of like smaller interactive things set up that I'm gonna mix into it. I do have a Mastodon. My Mastodon is at let me get the exact thing. Skyplayer at Mastodon spelled mstdn.social. I will put it in the chat so it shows up on the little chat window there if you're watching this later. You can follow me there for now. When I have the funds, I eventually want to host my own server and be able to control it myself. Right now, I'm just on one of the bigger public ones because I just make it all private anyway, and I just communicate with the Shrikes anyway. Gotta love the Shrikes. Shrikes probably saved my life at this point. I went through some very tough times the last couple months, and they really, really pulled me through it and got me to this point where I am, where I'm gonna move on and make my life a lot healthier for me and focus a lot more on other stuff. Yeah, it's good to be isolated from the fandom. If you're away from the drama, then bless your heart. The Shrikes rule. Heck yeah, Adam. The Shrikes are awesome. When is Slifer gonna be? The panel has 6 minutes. So I don't know how long the ending animation is, but Slifer's gonna swoop in and do something. Oh, man. Is there any last minute questions people want to ask? I pretty much said my say. I'm leaving the fandom. There's problems on both sides, but I am absolutely not a centrist. I'm siding with the What Pumpkin team all that I can on that. But I really just support a decentralized world of fandom where you celebrate Homestuck with your own group of friends. Didn't Jane have Jane had a bad poly relationship where Jake English was just cucked all day. I want a good poly relationship. Give June vs. Resi its rights. Whereas there's no pumpkins. There are no pumpkins here. I don't have a pumpkin. I have this. I have a Toblerone. It's a Toblerone keychain. This gives me a wish, I think. Cuck Jake, cuck Jake, cuck Jake. That got withheld by Automod. I'm going to allow that message. Hold on. / add permitted term cuck. Unrecognized command. Well, you're allowed anyways. Jake got cucked. Thank you, Vesperian, and I am like 2 minutes from not being able to answer questions or callouts. I want you all to enjoy the rest of Sahcon. There's a few more wonderful panels going on today. I think this is a wonderful event. This kind of celebrate Homestuck in your own corners and then get together at times to spread ideas and host events and get everyone together for one big day of celebrations. That is a really good way to handle fandom. Sahcon D's nuts. Yeah, you know it. I'll probably still be in the Sahcon general chat, but I gotta recuperate from an hour of talking. So don't leave yet. I've got an ending spiel here. I want to thank my Patreons, cyberKinetist, Emily Gotski, and takenUsername. I again will be phasing out my Patreon as soon as my Twitch reaches an affiliate status and I can make a few bucks off that. Just enough to let me survive. Musing Worlds, thank you for following. I'm still trying to find a job at a McDonald's somewhere so I can live. When I move in with my boyfriend, which I'm still hoping will be this year, I'm probably going to get into the habit of streaming once every day or two and be super duper important. Yeah, it's the end of the stream. It's my hour block. It's an hour block panel. There's other fantastic streams starting. You can go find some more. But
it says in the script here that you're supposed to hate me by now, so that when Swifer comes out and kills me, you all celebrate. And there's through that just natural progression of things, I haven't felt that. And if the original intent of the author of creating this art was for you to hate me, and that's not the intent you're putting on me right now, then I think that proves my point. That everyone can celebrate Homestuck in their own way, in their own corner, and the infighting is dumb, and the discovering stuff is dumb, and no, just not discovering something's dumb. I'm meshing up my words. It's been an hour. Arguing with the creators is dumb. Arguing with people is dumb. Argue in a way that helps spread ideas, but not is just a endless circle of nothing. You just saw the brain in the jar? Yeah, that's my brain there. That's how I'm talking. It's got the wires put in. It's my brain. Last year, Dirk Strider chopped my head off, as you'll see in the screen cap there. So they took my brain and put it in a jar. Thank you for thinking I'm cool. So I'm gonna say some words now. I'm gonna say I'll be going now.